we are going to develop a body paragraph for the Inform Explain essay. So writers develop a body paragraph by 1. Start the paragraph with a transition phrase. 2. State the topic sentence. 3. Include a transition word or phrase. State the first piece of textual evidence. Explain how the textual evidence proves the topic. And then step 6 is repeat steps 3, 4, and 5 2 more times. So I'm going to get started. And start the paragraph with a transition phrase and state my topic sentence. So right now I'm working on body paragraph 1. So it's important to include a transition phrase because it helps the reader smoothly transition from the previous paragraph. And so here are some options for the first body paragraph. When I look at these, I don't want to use the phrase a bad or the phrase a good because my paper's about the Little Rock Nine, and I'm basically saying they dealt with a lot of obstacles and had to overcome a lot of obstacles. I kind of want to go simple and use first or to begin in order to get this started. So I chose the phrase to begin. The Little Rock Nine persevered through many obstacles when they attempted to integrate Little Rock Central High School. And so I have the transition phrase to begin. And then step 3 and 4 include another transition word or phrase and state the first piece of textual evidence. So my topic sentence, to begin, the Little Rock Nine persevered through many obstacles when they attempted to integrate Little Rock Central High School. For example, this might remind you of the race strategy where you cite textual evidence. For example, is a very, very good transition phrase to use. This is the cite textual evidence part. For example, 9 African American students attempted to enter Little Rock Central High School on September 4th, 1957. However, they were turned away by the Arkansas National Guard. Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus had ordered the National Guard to stop the Black students from entering the high school. And I gathered this evidence from my notes that I've collected. So if you look here, I've got my very first piece of textual evidence that I gathered is right here. And I basically took that piece of textual evidence, I reworded this and paraphrased it for my body paragraph. So, oops, I have to go back to now I have my first piece of textual evidence. Now I have to explain it. Now I have to prove why 9 African American students attempting to enter Little Rock Central High School on September 4th and being turned away is considered an obstacle. I have to prove and explain to the reader why this was considered an obstacle. And so I chose to go with clearly the first day of school was challenging because the Black students were not even allowed to set foot on the high school campus. My goal is to really work hard to explain why the students being turned away by the National Guard proves that they persevered through an obstacle. Clearly, the first day of school was challenging because the Black students were not even allowed to set foot on the high school campus. Now that I have this first piece of textual evidence, I've explained it. I now go to repeat step 3, where I include my transition word phrase And I then state my second piece of textual evidence. The next attempt to integrate the school was on Monday, September 23rd. The 9 Black students entered the high school with the protection of the Little Rock police officers. Unfortunately, protesters entered the school and the 9 students were sent home. Officials sent the 9 students home again due to safety concerns. The next step is to explain this textual evidence and prove why it's considered. This example is considered persevering through an obstacle. This was another obstacle the Little Rock Nine had to overcome in order to integrate the high school. Now, the last piece is my third piece of textual evidence. So up until this point, I have my textual evidence number 1, I've explained it. Textual evidence number 2, I've explained it. Now I'm going to include a transition phrase and text evidence number 3. Once the 9 students began attending Little Rock Central High School, many students at Central resented having them at the school. They taunted them, abused them, spit on them, and threw school supplies at them. When some white students tried to help, they too found themselves being assaulted. Very few of the students who attacked the Little Rock Nine were ever punished. And because this is a direct quote, I have my in-text citation. I now have to explain this and prove why it's considered persevering through an obstacle. Even though the Little Rock Nine were integrating a formerly all-white school, they still had to deal with abuse on a daily basis from their white peers. And so in order to write my body paragraph, I have to, 1, start the paragraph with the transition phrase, 2, state the topic sentence, 3, include a transition word phrase leading into the first piece of textual evidence. Step 5, explain how the textual evidence proves the topic. Step 6, repeat steps 3, 4, 5, 2 more times. So now you can work on developing your body paragraph. You're going to want to have your notes handy where you've collected your evidence. For example, I have my notes handy on this piece of paper where I can see my notes that I've collected, my textual evidence that I've collected, and I can use the textual evidence that I've collected here in my paper. You can get started.